Thank you for joining us. Before we get started on today's episode, just a quick reminder to please smash the like button in the bottom right corner and subscribe to Locked On Senators so you can be the first to know when new content arrives. The best way to help us grow is to comment on the video as well. So let us know if this is a player you want the Sens to draft or you think they should stay away from, and let us know why as well. This is one of 64 draft profiles that we're producing. So let's get into it. Coming in at number 18 on the Locked On Senators draft rankings from the Winnipeg ICE centerman, Conor Geekie.
Conor Geekie, this guy, this is a big prospect, Ross.
We're
looking at 6'4", over 200 pounds. He plays in the middle of the ice for the Winnipeg ICE, and look, right off the bat, there's a lot to like about him, right? Like his brother, he already has a pedigree. His brother plays for Seattle Kraken. He's already an NHLer, so you know it runs in the family. He was a number 2 overall pick in the 2019 WHL, drafted by the Kootenay ICE before they moved to Winnipeg. And he's already got some WHL experience. He had 23 points in 24 games in the WHL bubble last year, and then he did have a handful of games before, but no points in 7 games. And this season, he popped off 63 games, 24 goals scored, 46 assists, good for 70 points. And then Ross, you got a glimpse of him in the playoffs. In 15 games, he had 3 goals, 8 assists, good for 11 points.
Yeah, so he's an interesting prospect. We'll get to the wide range of opinions on him, but you mentioned over 200 pounds. Now on the WHL website, he's listed at 204. On Elite Prospects, he's listed at 205. But NHL Central Scouting had him at 190. With a 6'4" frame. So clearly he's got some growing in to do. You can see from the photo if you're watching on YouTube, like pretty thin, pretty tall, lanky kid, sick hands on him though. Like he's the type of player that can control the pace of the game through his hands instead of his feet, which is important when we get to that part of the wider scope of what Conor Geekie is as a prospect. So you mentioned he went second overall or first in
second.
So you know who went first that year, right?
It was Savoy, wasn't it?
Yeah. Kootenay had picks 1 and 2 in that draft. So talk about a head start for Winnipeg getting that franchise with 2
kind
players.
Kind of like the Gatineau Olympique situation.
Yeah, 100%, except I guess those picks didn't hit as much because we're only talking about one of them in that case. And sorry to Matthew Savoy, he's the guy who's cut out in this photo. It was a good photo of the two of them together, but had to get Geekie in there all by himself. So he's the type of player. We'll get to him in a sec, but let me go through the rankings right now because Bob McKenzie, and again, this one is more from what the league is thinking. However, his rankings here that we still have for Craig and Bob, they're holding out on us, man. They're making us wait. So as of right now, we're still using their midterm rankings. Everyone else has provided us with their final rankings. Bob McKenzie has him at 10th. Scott Wheeler has him at 16th, which we'll talk to him about Conor Geekie as well, because this seems like the type of player who Scott Wheeler would typically be a little lower on. Elite Prospects, Chris Peters, both have him at 19. Corey Pronman at 20, down from 7, though, on his midterm. Tony Ferrari at 25 and Craig Button at 26. So you've got a range here from 10 to 26. So basically, he will be a first-round pick, I think.
Definitely, yeah. Yeah, I think it's pretty safe to say he's going to go in the first round.
So what do you like most about Conor Geekie? Because for me, there's 2 things that stand out.
So what I like to do, Ross, before I do any kind of reading of articles and before I get anyone else's opinion on a player, I like to go to YouTube and just watch the highlights, just so I have a clean slate, no kind of predisposed judgments, nothing kind of clouding what my opinion is on him. And the first thing I noticed with Geekie is his ability to constantly beat goalies one-on-one. Like whenever there was a scenario where, you know, it's literally just him skating into the zone. There's no defender in his way. There's no tip. There's no pass. There's nothing else happening. It's just him versus the goalie. He's always beating them. He has such a good release and he's so accurate. And the way you know that your release and accuracy are on point is when he scores the goal, the goalie doesn't let's say he goes top glove. The goalie doesn't move his glove after. The goalie's still sitting there and he doesn't put it drop down and be like, oh crap, I let a goal in until the goal goes on. He doesn't even know where that puck went until it's like, oh, a goal has been scored. And then it's like, how did that puck get behind me? And that's the kind of release that he has. And it's just so impressive. Like, as a goalie watching that, you're like, oh, that goalie, like, he wasn't even close. Like, he didn't even get a sniff of where that shot was going. So that was the number one thing that came out to me, is his shot and his release.
Yes, and not only that, but his IQ for me is the way he thinks the game in the offensive zone is unbelievable. Like, watching him down low, physical, man, physical. He doesn't have the skating, and that's probably the biggest detractor of his game. Is it's just a weird stride. It's choppy. It's not pretty to watch. But have the Sens drafted bad skaters before and done all right out of the WHL? Yeah, Mark Stone comes to mind. Obviously, playing the middle of the ice is a lot different, but the Sens have a phenomenal skating coach in Shelley Kettles, and you got to think that she'd be putting in work if the Senators do decide to go the Conor Geekie route. But you know that scouts just get enamored with the 6'4" frame, center iceman, and call me crazy, but when I watched this kid play live, I saw him 6 times this year. I think I went to once in the playoffs, and I see a bit of Evgeny Malkin in his game. Like, I know he said he compared himself to a bit of Malkin and a bit of Draisaitl all put together. I think
not bad.
Slow the roll there, kid, a little bit. But I will say that he does have those Malkin qualities where he leans on guys in the offensive zone, and you just can't get the puck from him. It's just impossible to get the puck from him. So to me, his puck protection ability in the offensive zone, and then if he was a better skater, he would obliterate guys all the time. But there are still the plays where all of a sudden he comes out of nowhere and just kills guys. So he's physical, he's big. He's not like, it's weird to say, because maybe he's not the type of player that's going to wow you always with his skill, but then he'll have like a flash of skill. You know what I mean? Like Savoy, like the smoothness of his game. He doesn't have that, but it's more like, wait, how is this guy doing what he's, whoa, like, how did he just put that upstairs? Like, that was a really sick shot. So he's a tough prospect to get a read on, because he gives you these flashes of unbelievable talent. But at the same time, when you're watching a full sample of him, you're like, he's kind of leaving me want more at the same time.
Yeah, and that's one thing I read. A couple scouts said that, and the hockey writers mentioned that oftentimes he likes to cheat on offense. So that kind of plays into what you're saying, where it's like in a full sample size, you're like, I'm not really sure. But then when the puck does get transitioned and we're going into offense now, you're like, holy crap, this kid is good. He's got it figured out. But the issue is, when you cheat on offense and you're not a strong skater, you're leaving your teammates hanging out to dry defensively. And because you can cheat on offense, Ross, if you hustle back and you're able to make up that lost ground when the puck is turned over. Conor Geekie's not able to do that. And so essentially there's odd man rushes being created all the time up against the Winnipeg ICE that defensemen are going to have to deal with. You take the good with the bad, because he's probably going to create a couple rushes on his own cheating offensively. But for a centerman, those are bad habits that are going to get exposed massively in the NHL. So that's something I think he needs to work on. Now, when initially I started watching Conor Geekie highlights, Sens part of my brain, it's totally biased, but I got Logan Brown flashes, right? Like good vision, great shot, all these kinds of things in junior. It all works out. But where I like Conor Geekie's chances more than Logan Brown is he uses that frame. Like you mentioned, he uses the frame to just outmuscle guys and put his backside into guys to protect the puck. He uses that frame in front of the net in the corners. So that's where I see a lot more potential than him fizzling out like Connor Brown did, because he's already understanding how to use that frame. Now imagine him understanding how to use that frame with 20 pounds added onto him, and now he's not only dominating guys in his own age group, but he's dominating guys at the professional level. He's dominating men that he's battling up against. So I think there's a lot to like about Conor Geekie, but you have to kind of take what you're getting with him with a grain of salt, knowing that there are some major things like the skating and the cheating on offense that are going to have to be coached out through time.
There really is. And I worry a little bit about the playoff production. Like, yeah, he still had 11 points, but the goal scoring really dried up compared to what it was during the regular season. And as we pull up his elite prospects page, he's a May 5th birthday. He's listed here at 6'4", and
Crazy they don't have a picture for him on
I know,
EP.
right?
Conor Geekie, come on.
Get it together. From Strathclair, good Manitoba boy. And as you can see, the ranges are just all over the place. His brother, as you mentioned, plays for the Seattle Kraken. And yes, so maybe I'm being too hard on him because 11 points in 15 games. It's not bad,
But
but
like you said, the goal scoring being at 3, that's kind of concerning.
3 goals in 15 games. Yeah. And there were a couple high scoring games. Like they
Yeah.
dominated through the first 2 rounds. And then obviously Edmonton was a wagon. So they were able to take care of that. But even still, like last year, it was a little bit more of a playmaker, still 9 goals, but 23 points in 24 games. I'm still a little more bullish on him. And maybe that's because I want to be able to see a Sens prospect play in Winnipeg next year. That to say, I'm going with 3 stars for Conor Geekie. I think I could talk myself into it. The raw tools that he has. His head coach thinks that at the NHL level, he's going to be a 6'5", 220-pound centerman. And those don't grow on trees. I understand the Logan Brown flashes. I get it. There's also no injury concerns like Logan Brown has had throughout his career. And what would Logan Brown have become without injury? Still, foot speed an issue. That's where the similarities go beyond their size. Really good playmakers, good vision, good hockey IQ. I got 3 stars, though, for Conor Geekie. I could talk myself into, if we can just fix his stride, just fix his skating, he'll be a hell of a player. So not banging the table for him, but I wouldn't be upset if they take him. Although at 7, then I'd start to be a little upset.
Yeah, and that's fair. And that is a good point that you bring up. Logan Brown, a big reason why he didn't play physically is because he had that hesitancy of getting hurt all the time. And when you're a big guy that gets hurt, that makes your day-to-day life off the ice very difficult. So that's definitely a fair point there. Ross, for me, I see Conor Geekie as being the type of prospect that a team is looking at if they already have a number 1 center in place and they're not trying to hit a home run and have a guy reach number 1 center potential. I think the perfect range for Geekie projection-wise is a really good third line center and a good second line center. Like, I don't think any team is going to be hoping they can develop him into a number 1 center. So that's where I think it's going to be interesting to see what teams are interested in him. Having said that, the Sens are looking pretty good up the middle finally and have some confidence there. So I don't really love the range that he's going to go in, probably somewhere from 10 to 20. So I don't like the Sens drafting Conor Geekie for that point. I give him 3 stars as well, just because it doesn't really make a lot of sense.